folks. I'm so pumped for today. Today's gonna be fun. Let me pop over here so you guys can see me, and we will get started for the day. Hello everybody. Welcome back. My name is Voodoo Val. I am a digital illustrator, freelance artist working in Northern California, and you probably know now that I am the illustrator for the characters and UI and all that good stuff for DesiQuest. I'm super pumped to be back for another live stream for the illustration of the guide, which I'm pretty pumped for today specifically because we're going to be diving into the nitty-gritty details of prop illustration and all that good stuff, all the fun things that are going to be going into, or some of the fun things that are going to be going into this project. We've spent some of the last live streams kind of going over the page layout and the concept for that, and I've pretty much got that solidified. And so what I'd like to do today is go over some of the new information that we have to put into the book, and more of the items and things that I want to display and stuff for the guide, rather than like the graphic layout of everything, because we've been doing a lot of that, right? And so today we're going to be working on some of the spot illustrations and things, the sketches and the look and feel of those things specifically, rather than also the pages and the little slips of paper that hang off the edges and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to talk about, if I pull up my my little document here, we talked last time about the Academy, and today we're going to talk about the theater and the crystallariums, showcasing different films every day or every month, and all that good stuff, the patented crystal technology and all that good stuff. And I'm going to be doing some rough concepts and things of what these items look like and stuff like that. And of course we will, you know, like I'll illustrate stuff and then I will go back to the team and kind of double check that some of these things are looking cool, maybe add some things to them. So you might see some of this stuff in the final product. You might see some changes or variations to them and all that good stuff, but it's really a lot of fun to dive into this sort of work because we get to kind of combine real life with fantasy and talk about what makes fantasy, you know, the kinds of explorations and stuff you can kind of just make happen versus worrying about how it happens, which is always something that's really intriguing to me. So I'm going to pop over here to my my screen capture, and you can see a lot of these things you will probably recognize and some of it you probably won't. We have our Nail fruit, which we still need to get illustrated. We have our little ticket that we worked on last time, our sketches of the Ladu, and our Don't Touch the Peacock sketch, some of the stamps that we've already finished and all that good stuff. And I think actually I'm going to make myself a little bit tinier. Boop, 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 boop. I'm going to make myself a little smaller in the bottom here so that you can see more of my canvas, but we're also going to be concepting some cool crystals and things like that. So what I would like to do actually is start with the crystals. Let's work on something new for the day, considering we have not really touched on that at all. And I want to get some new fresh content, some new excitement going on the stream. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of hide what I've laid out here, and we are going to make our crystal sketches a little bit larger, and I'm going to start laying out kind of how I envision this. So, you know, you hear about this stuff in the show, and one can kind of draw their own conclusions as to the visual representation of this. And so what I'd like to do is kind of bring my visual representation of this technology to life, and see if we can really give it the vibe that it exists, that it is real, and all that kind of stuff. And the first thing that we're going to do when we start concepting this sort of thing, as we sort of bring those ideas into the world, is to start honestly with a little bit of reality, a little bit of truth, which not nearly as fun as the stuff that we folks like to get up to, but truth truthfully, all of the things that we love and know about fantasy, they all start somewhere based in our reality. So over here on my other monitor, which you can't see, I've got some Pinterest boards and things up of stuff that's like, you know, a little bit of real photos and things of like crystals and stuff like that, things that to me signify I guess what a crystal is supposed to look like, things that that show like how light actually refracts through the different faces of crystals and things like that. And then I am going to kind of put a little fantasy spin on that and make it our own, make it something that is a little more intriguing than the standard. So these little formations and things that I have here, I'm actually going to group everything else in its own little group so we can just kind of look at our crystals here. These little formations that I've sort of got in here are kind of what I imagine some of these formations might look like. I was thinking that it would be really cool if there was like these sort of crystal points incorporated into this design, and to kind of give them either like a roughened look, or give them sort of a like a little holder that they like are ensconced in, something that would perhaps hover in space, and all that good stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start kind of suggesting what the faces of this look like, because crystals have like these really lovely sort of rutilated faces, where the where it sort of forms that iconic crystal point look. And something to keep in mind as you go, speaking of like adding a little bit of reality into design, and kind of bringing that real life into fantasy to kind of bolster the believability of the things you're making, which do not exist. Um, uh, One thing that I want to keep in mind is kind of how crystals actually are formed. So for those of you who, I assume there's probably some folks watching out there who have a collection of crystals or whatever, people who sort of like that sort of thing. I definitely do. And one way that you can actually tell like a real crystal from a, or I would say maybe not necessarily a real crystal from a fake one, but a polished crystal from a non-polished crystal, from like a crystal in its raw form, is that the raw form of crystals, actually they have like those interesting painted surfaces or like polished surfaces that gleam, and you can see that light sort of refracting through them. But unpolished crystal points have this sort of like texture to them, almost like if you've ever seen, I guess, like slabs of earth kind of going down the side of a mountain. There's like tiers to it, like the natural tiers of like a rocky cliff. Crystals sort of have that. There's like this almost like a little staircase pattern in the face of all of the flat portions of a crystal, and it's very subtle. And if you have some crystals at home, or if you'd like to kind of Google what raw crystals look like, you'll see that, especially if you turn it in the light, you can see like this very subtle pattern of like these striations through it. And so I'm kind of like leaving myself some notes here in my sketch to remember to do that sort of thing. So I've got that down, and I've kind of, like I said, I've kind of like tapered it, but I also kind of want it to be really chunky, because I want to suggest that this is not like a teeny tiny little crystal point. I want to kind of give it like this mass and make it look like very broad and heavy. So we've kind of got like this chunky formation here. And as we sort of get into painting it, we can then add all of that intrigue and like the swirling of magic within it. And that's like, you know, once we have our base here that's, like I said, kind of based and rooted in reality, then we can start doing some interesting things, like maybe I'll sketch in here that I definitely want to have like some kind of swirling magical mass on the inside that will kind of give anybody who beholds this illustration the idea that this is not normal. You know, this is not a normal crystal. And alternatively, let's go ahead. I kind of did add a little sketch over here, but I'm going to ruin that, just kind of like remove it. I'm going to duplicate this and kind of put this over here, and then we'll take this other one and place it. And for this one, we're kind of going to add a little more intrigue to the design. So like I said, kind of creating a version of this which is ensconced in some way, I think would be really interesting. And so figuring out how to do that is going to be really, really cool. So I'm kind of removing parts of it, and I want to suggest that perhaps there's like this golden metal that's sort of wrapping around it, like some kind of apparatus which contains this this piece of crystal. Can kind of do like this sort of thing. It's not really super symmetrical, but at this stage it doesn't really have to be. And my plan for this is to like put this on the page that discusses the crystal tech for the films, the Bollywood theaters, and all that good stuff. To have, because I've got a section in my notes that kind of goes over more of the specifics and like the history of how this technology came about. And I think that if our guide is supposed to be like this collection of information that somebody has gathered as they've traveled through Vihar, then you would probably pick up, just like we got like snippets of the menu from Cafe Amiri, and just like we got the coupon and stuff for the Academy Cafe, we would probably also eventually get a little piece of some kind of brochure or informational literature that kind of goes over the details of this, you know? And I think it would be neat, like, if we did some kind of hovering, you know, like the magic is kind of making this hover up and down in this interesting sconce. And maybe, honestly, maybe it rotates as well. I think that that would be really, really interesting, and we can do some really beautiful engraving on this. And I think that this would be like kind of a great time to echo a lot of the design which I did for the show graphics. You know, there was a lot of that like metal and like coinage and stuff with things carved into the surface or stamped into the surface, and I think that this gives us the opportunity to bring that back and kind of show a consistency of design throughout the world, which would be really cool. I think that we could also do like some little chunks. Little chunks of crystal could maybe be cool. I won't spend too much time on those, but it would be interesting just to do some other ones. And then we will kind of get into, let's kind of merge those. I'm going to hide that sketch from underneath. We can sort of get into polishing this and making it look a little more intriguing. I like these. I like these a lot, actually. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and like turn those on a lower opacity. Let's now make this beautiful. Let's beautify this. And I'm going to actually, so I have my sketch that I can always return to, but I may actually work on just the raw crystal by itself so I'm not distracted by the other plans and things that I have. And then we'll duplicate that final illustration and start doing different variations of it with metal wrapping around and all of those various details. So let's go ahead and duplicate that. We will hide our better sketch and we will make this larger and kind of center it so that we can focus on it totally and completely. So the way that I like to detail things like this is to kind of block in my major shapes. It seems like it's going to be a super intricate painting, but I think that if you folks in the chat are illustrators or painters, something to keep in mind as you approach a creative project like this is to not to overthink things and to actually keep each step pretty simple. Intricate design work and intricate illustration, intricate painting is not really like this massive undertaking of work. What it really is it's a series of simple steps simply stacked on top of each other. And I think that the same could be said for putting together your own campaign, designing your own world to explore and adventure in. It seems like a pretty broad project when you look at the possible finished product or when you imagine what it could be in the future, but truly the road to getting there is just stacking little teeny pieces on top of each other until you create something larger. So we're going to approach this without fear. We're going to approach this with confidence. We're going to approach it with the polygonal lasso tool, and I am just going to kind of snag the shape here. So I'm just kind of tapping my mouse into the shape of our crystal. And I think we're going to make this kind of blue, aqua, and purple. So I'm going to take, I'm thinking honestly we can do, let's go into our blue. I'm going to kind of bump this down so I can really see what we're working with here. And I'm going to go ahead and let's go underneath here and kind of drop that in. So we've got the shape of our crystal here. And then on a new layer, I'm just going to do my hotkey here, which is Control-Shift-In for any of you who may use Photoshop, Command-Shift-In if you're working on a Mac. I'm a PC girl because I like to play PC games, so I'll always be working on PC. But what we're going to do here now is let's go ahead and deselect. And we are going to make this layer a clipping mask and start creating some in here and use our polygonal lasso tool again to start, let me make sure I have that selected, to start kind of blocking in the faces of our crystal. So if I go ahead and select here, you know, instead of like going in and starting to paint all these different random pieces of it, we're just going to break it up individually and work on this as like I guess almost like a puzzle. We're going to start taking tiny portions of it and detailing those. So let me grab, I'm thinking I use my little chalk brush and I'm going to grab a bright color. And I'm also kind of thinking about how the light is hitting this. So if the light is coming down from the top, right, top to bottom, then a lot of these faces on top here are going to catch the light pretty dramatically, right, to give it that crystal vibe. You know, when you turn a crystal in the air, each little plane is going to catch the light, and maybe some of them are glittering, you know, things like that. And we'll leave the glittering and the magic until later, but for now we just make sure that that light looks proper. And what I'm actually going to do is not put light here. I'm going to put light here on the widest portion from the base because it would be catching the light most dramatically. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. And we're even going to kind of dim our sketch a little bit so I can really start to see this. So we're going to go like that. Maybe grab some of this darker color and kind of bring that in like so. And let's deselect. So now we're gonna do the next portion of it, and we're gonna do it kind of in the same way. We're gonna continue to really create this realistic vibe for our crystal. Let's go ahead and do, I think we're gonna do like this. Boom. And we'll do the same thing. Let's grab this bright color and let's bring that up from the top. I'm just kind of tapping in some light here. And then we'll grab our polygonal lasso tool again. And I think we're gonna go, let's go like this. Kind of follow the edges of these here. In fact, I'm gonna go back and we're gonna bring it over from this side a little more, so we can have a little more contrast. Maybe even a tiny bit from the top. Okay, and then let's make another layer, and I'm just gonna go through here and start to really bring this form out. And I'm leaving a little bit of space in between here, because I am going to add some more details. There's going to be, like, you know, on those creases where the faces of this crystal are meeting, there's going to be like some highlights and stuff, but for now I do need to really see that differentiating portion there, so I'm just going to kind of leave that little space a little bit blank. Let's go ahead and I'm going to make this a little closer, and I'm going to leave that little tiny tip of that corner open. There we go. And then let's do some of these on top. So I'm going to grab this polygonal lasso tool portion right here. And we're going to really brighten this up. In fact, we're going to grab a lighter color. We're going to make that really pop. Boom. There we go. And let's make another layer and start to kind of let me make sure I get this bright color in there just like that. And then I also want to do it here and kind of bring it off the edge. Okay, let's deselect. Let's take a peek at that. It's starting. It's beginning. I'm gonna make sure I kind of come over here and peek at my my reference, because one thing that I definitely want to get across, because I have like a lot of very specific light kind of coming in here. And I think that I need more variation, more contrast between the pieces. They're all very uniform, like being lit from the bottom. And I think that depending on what kind of magic we put on the inside, some of this is going to be transformed a little bit. So I'm going to come in, let me go through and kind of look at these. I definitely want that to stay where it's at. I'm thinking we're going to alter these main points here. So I'm going to go ahead and lock the transparency on that. I'm going to grab this color and I'm going to bring it down darker. Let's see what it looks like if we kind of throw in, ooh, uh-oh. Very cool. Little darker bits in there, actually looking pretty amazing. Little crazy. I'm liking it. Let's go ahead and do this as well. I'm going to actually make a little piece underneath here. Let's select this again, sort of. Let's add a little darkness right in there. That looks good to me. I'm feeling good about that. Let's deselect. Okay, so that's starting to look like a crystal. It's starting to look pretty dope. It's a little you know, like I'm sure that when you guys think of like fantasy crystal, when you guys think of that sort of thing, you're probably seeing what I'm seeing, and that is like something that is brighter, more saturated, kind of glowy, that sort of thing. And we'll get there. For now, this is looking pretty lit, and I want to actually start adding some of the faces down here, and this is going to bring a little bit more intrigue into it as well, because we're going to start getting some deeper tones in here. So let's go ahead and kind of throw this in here. I'm wondering if we go ahead and do something like that. Boom. Yeah. Another thing to think about when it comes to like kind of adding a little bit of truth and intrigue into this, because, you know, in order to believe something that doesn't exist, you have to make it seem plausible. So another little fact is, like, crystals, especially as I'm like looking at them over here, unless they're still attached to like the geode, they kind of break away, almost like if you've ever seen like shards breaking off of obsidian. You know, they kind of do break away at the taper. They do break away in like little blades, little pieces like that, and that's kind of, and it really depends on what stone you're thinking of. And with quartz crystal, you know, if they snap out of a geode, there's going to be some taper towards the center, right, all the time. So when we start to do that, we need it to come inward, you know, so the top ones, they kind of taper up, and then the bottom ones are going to have to taper in that way, unless we wanted to put like more of the geode bits, like they're still part of that base formation attached, which we could do, we could totally do, but for this, I would like to think that this one has been cleaned up a little bit, or it's been, you know, removed completely from its initial ensconcing, in its raw form, and has been cleaned up a little bit for use. So we're going to keep this one at least pretty clean. Let's go ahead and kind of make a new bit here. I'm going to grab an even darker face here, even darker color to add to the edge, and then we'll put a tiny bit of light. Love it. Let's add another. Just going to kind of go around. Let's go to this little divot right here that I kind of added in there. I kind of want some light, but I want a lot of that dark. And then let's do this one. And let's grab some of this bright. Oh yeah. Sometimes I be making stuff and I'm like, did I make this? Really? I made that? That's crazy. That's that's wild that I did that. I can't believe that. I'm kind of looking here too, at like specifically like the base formation of a lot of these quartz crystals. I can't wait to put the rutilation in here, but it's gonna be just trying to make sure that I'm keeping it as accurate as possible. And I think that I am. I might need like more of a like a straight across cut. I'm not exactly sure, but we can kind of add that a little bit later if that's what's necessary. I want to kind of switch it up here so we don't have like straight up and down pieces. I think kind of like having this little pizza slice variation here would be great, and the top of this is definitely going to be dark. because it's a little thin, it's a little tapered, and also because it just looks cool that way. It just looks neat to have like that dark, you know, in there. It gives that drama, you know. And then let's do these two little portions. And any dark that we do here is going to be like more in the center. We might have a little bit of brightness coming right there. Not sure. Maybe from the bottom. But still contrasting with the faces that are directly next to it. That looks good to me. And then last one, before we start to make it fancy. We want to do this here, get that nice contrast, that dark face over there, maybe a lighter face here. I'm not 100% sold on the approach to kind of the bottom portions, but we can work on that. In fact, let's go ahead and, because I think it needs more or less uniformity. So doing something like, gosh, how could we do this? How could we break this up? We could go like this, maybe. I don't know if that'll work. Let's grab like a darker color. Maybe we'll, you know, we can do a little of that later. Like I said, I do try, even though my methods probably don't seem like it. I do actually try not to be too precious with certain things. It's just kind of difficult sometimes. Okay, I'm happy with this so far. I am deliberately ignoring the bottom of it because now it's starting to make my eye twitch, but sometimes you have to move on. Sometimes you do. Okay, we need to add some texture. We also need to add some color variation because the fact of it is that this is like a very blue, very aqua, but we need to kind of start making a little more intriguing. So I'm going to select all of this in my layers here, and I'm going to group it so that it's all together. And then above here, we're going to start playing with what are called blending modes, because the blending modes are going to kind of give us a little more intrigue and color variation in a way that means that I'm not going to be like, okay, let's make this portion over here this color and this portion over here this color. It'll be a little bit like that, but it'll start to interact with the paint I already have on my canvas. So let's grab, I'm thinking, I did want it to be like more bluish and purple and aqua, but we can do a few variations. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to kind of throw some purple just very lightly around. And we're going to try this on an overlay. Overlay's not going to do it. Color dodge could work, but that's a little too bright. But you can see how it's starting to like become a little more interesting. Honestly, darken's not bad. Darken, it is darkening, but it is also adding some interesting color to our brighter portions. I just don't know if that's exactly what I want. Let's flip through all of them. Typically I have some blending modes that I like love to use, but I do like to also kind of go through the majority of them that I have just to see if there's any like standout interactions that could be fun to use. And I'm not seeing any that are like perfect, really. But that doesn't mean necessarily that we're not going to find one. So another thing is, let me make sure I'm hitting the tilde key. Another thing is it could also just be like the value of the color that we're using. So we can also, let's go to overlay, and let's go image, adjustments, hue and saturation. And like kind of saturate this and make it brighter. Yeah. That's starting to look like there's something in there, and it's more green than I meant to come across, but I'm not mad about it because we can do kind of color over the top of everything if we want. Let me turn this on to normal for now because I want to select this color. And let's bring it back to overlay. Because now I have this selected, so I can actually like paint on here with exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, that's kind of cool. We're starting to make it, you know, it's starting to look shiny, which is kind of what we wanted, and I like that. Let's take a peek at my reference a little bit. There's some dark portions in a lot of these crystals where you can see things in the center of it, but then there's also some like heavily opaque faces to a crystal where like the light is hitting it in such a way where you can't see anything through the glare. So we kind of want to bring that in a little bit. There's also the option of kind of adding intrigue with the rutilations. So, you know, like we will have like some of those little scratchy tiered textures kind of showing up on a lot of this stuff like so, but sometimes crystals have a little thing going like this where if we grab, let's grab like a purple, I'm gonna do a little of this, bear with me here. And then I'm going to transform that. Let's distort. I'm not saying this is going to be how everything is going to go, but we could start to add some interesting bits like this. For anybody who's familiar with like fluorite, there's a lot of that kind of in fluorite. A lot of these kind of portions that look very like slices of color on the inside. So that could be interesting to experiment with. I don't know if it's really for this project, but I mean, this is kind of cool. I'm actually not mad about that, to be honest. I want to erase with this texture. So let's like kind of make this a little less uniform by kind of removing some portions of it and making it look a little more natural by making it unnatural. And then we can kind of bring some of our paint back in here, just so that like give it this this vibe like it's wrapping around the faces of this rather than like cutting straight through, because fluorite does have like vibrant fluorite, it does have stuff that kind of cuts through like straight, but not all of it is like that. Some of it is more curved. It really depends on what kind of fluorite you're looking at. And let's kind of do that. This could be cool. Actually, it's starting to grow on me, to be perfectly frank. But like I said, we'll do some variations. kind of want to break up the versions of it. Like up close, it's nothing special, but like when you zoom out, it starts to look pretty darn neat. Nifty, as the cool kids say. I'm pretty sure the cool kids say that. That's what I was told, at least. Okay. I think that's kind of neat, to be honest. And another thing that we can do is we can lock the transparency on that. Is this, yeah, this is soft light. So if we lock that transparency and then we grab like maybe something that was a lot more blue. We can also start to alter it. And I don't know if maybe that was the right color for that. I don't want to watch a quick video, Photoshop. Thanks for asking. Sort of. Just to change, you know, change this color a little bit, give it a little something something in there. Let's grab something that's more red, because red is reacting pretty crazy with this. I wonder if I want to see if there's anything else that reacts well with this other than soft light. Just out of curiosity. Not really. Let's go back to soft light. I like that. Okay. Let's keep that. Let's keep that for now. Because I do kind of like it. Okay. Looking cool. We want to add a little more vibrancy, a little more uniformity, even though we have different faces of this. And I think that we're going to achieve that by then kind of coloring this as a whole. So we've added all of these details to like individual portions of it. We've got like these interesting kind of striations through it. We still need to do those on the individual faces of this to really give it kind of an element of realism, but I'm not vibing with how green this is. So when I say paint it as a whole, I mean grab like an interesting color, and we're going to start to kind of bring the entirety of it together. Oh, I'm painting with an eraser. Let's make sure we're on our brush. So we're going to do a little of this, and we're going to kind of ombre it. This is just on another layer. And we will apply a blending mode to this as well. So we're going to kind of bring it together. Like it's darker and shadowed at the bottom. The top will have like more of this glow, and we're going to start to like really make this cohesive. Let's see what we get. I kind of like where that's going, to be perfectly frank. I also kind of like that, but it's a little too green and crazy for us. And my goal is not really to be so, you know, multiply might do it. My goal is not for it to be so loud in all portions of the illustration. That's the problem, is that it's really loud in too many places. I almost like this. I almost do, but I'm not sure. What was the other one I liked? We could do this. Let's remove from this. I don't really want that like black on the side, like nearly black. But we are kind of starting to pull it out. I feel like I look so mad. I am enjoying myself. This is is the face of a nerd enjoying herself with nerd things, okay? I swear. This is what I look like when I'm having a ball. It's just, you wouldn't know it. I like the darken. The darken does suck a lot of the detail out, but you know what? We might work with it. Let's do that, because that's a little more subtle. It's still loud at the top, but we can work with that. Okay, let's do another little, like, full painting here. Let's do this just on the bottom, or just on the top, and kind of fade into the bottom. That does make it more cohesive. It makes it really dark, but uh-oh. Overlay's good. Overlay might do it. Overlay is one of the ones I usually go. Hard light does make it more sparkly glowy. But I don't know if it's going to cut it this time. Let's go ahead and go back to overlay. Yeah, let's go to overlay. I'm digging it. We might turn that fill down just a little bit. Okay. And then let's start to break away from how busy it is in certain places. So we're going to come back with our polygonal lasso tool, and we're going to start doing the portions that I mentioned earlier, where it's like the light kind of hits some of these portions so strongly that you can't see through the transparency of the crystal. So let's grab, I'm thinking we grab like this portion here. And we're going to grab like that color, this right here. Maybe we will do this. Before I was like, we're going to hit it with the light in a different area, but honestly the brightness looks pretty good right there. It does. It's kind of like doing that opaque bit there, and we could even put some of that there. I like it. I like it. It's feeling good. Let's do something like this. Ruh-roh. The more satisfied I become with my illustrations, the more I devolve into Scooby-Doo. I this is canon for me. And that's the honest to God truth. Sometimes when people overhear me illustrating, they're like, what's going on in there? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Don't stress yourself out. Okay? Let me worry about me. Okay. Let's do it here as well. It's starting to happen. Definitely starting to happen. Let's do one of these kind of bottom ones here. Do I do it from the... maybe? Don't mind me just having a conversation with me and only saying a third of it out loud. I want to know this, you know, I don't, you know, if anybody is out there and you guys want to tell me, I want to know how many of you, when you're creating, whether it's illustrating or designing a new character, or putting together a new campaign, whatever it is that you do creatively, I want to know if you talk to yourself out loud, because I talk to myself out loud when I'm creating, when I'm designing a character specifically, and I'm like, okay, how does she talk? How does he move? And I'm like being the guy at myself, you know, while I'm putting it together. I feel like you kind of have to, right? I can't be the only one. I can't be. Please validate me. I cannot be the only one that's doing that. Because it's kind of part of the process, truly. It's how it comes together. Let's try this one as well, kind of bringing that in, and I'm going to do from the bottom a little bit here too. Let's do like, I don't want it to be too crazy. That's starting to look really cool to me. I do kind of want to add a little bit more of this dark purple into some places, but I don't think I have to do it just yet. Let's bring some of this in from the edge. I'm liking that. Okay. All right, Val. All right. Looking pretty neat. Now we need inner glow too. We definitely need inner glow. We definitely need like, cause like right now it's like kind of a cool crystal, but like what's special about it? You know what I mean? Like what makes this the crystal that is like, you look at it and you're like, oh, that's new. You know what I mean? Let me put this on a blending mode. Was that hard light? Kind of does what I want it to do, but not quite. Not entirely. We'll leave it for now. Okay. Let's do some glow. Let's kind of group all of this again. And go back in with our clipping masks. And let's, I think I need a new brush. I have so many brushes, guys. I have so many brushes. Some of them I've made myself. Some of them I have specifically not made myself, and I found from other people who've done some really cool stuff with their brush textures. Wet watercolor. I don't even know what that one is. I kind of do need. What does it look like? It's on. Oh, that's my eraser. That's why that's weird. B. I like that. I don't know if I like the color. Okay, if I do it green, that does kind of almost like that greenish blue. It does kind of almost look like we are seeing through it right there, and then I can kind of put something in there. You know what I mean? Like right there. And I could make it like super saturated. I don't know if I should. Because then, yeah, because it's pretty dark right there. And I did kind of like that darkness. Let's only take a tiny bit of it away, because I want that almost like a little window in there. Okay. Now, let's grab like, I've got gritty stuff. What is this? Let's experiment. I don't know if that's really what we want, but let's play with it. It's possible. But like an inner crystal rutilation is not really, it's not usually super uniform like that, like where it looks like there's something contained inside specifically. We can do that because, you know, we're kind of doing our own thing here. We kind of do want to have like some kind of special magic like added in. So maybe, I mean, maybe that does kind of work for this. Maybe that could work. So it's like there's stuff swirling around in there. Honestly, I might be onto something. I want to remove portions of this so that it doesn't look like it's sprayed on the front of it. Does that make sense? I want to see portions of it through this like a broken mirror. That's what I want. And then I could probably even come back in here to like the very early days of this. Let's duplicate that. And let's bring that up to the very top, like the early stages of this. Let's make sure all of these are still clipped. And let's put that in the clip. It's possible. All right. And then I'm going to start sketching a little more of this like opaque color over here on this side. So maybe it's not super dark down there. Maybe it's a little bit brighter. Or it could still be dark depending on what the blending modes kind of do to this, but kind of give it like this vibe, like whatever, all the stuff we just put there is on the inside. It's on the other side of this glare, this glow that we're doing. That's kind of cool. That kind of like made it a little bit less, like the contrast, kind of changed the contrast a little bit. And I'm kind of just altering the brightness, the hue, the saturation, all this kind of stuff to experiment. I like to experiment this way, like with the settings, so that as I'm placing stuff kind of in there, I don't have to choose these colors and like place them down 100% on my own, because I don't really know, you know, exactly how this is going to look. There's a lot of experimentation here at this point. And this gives me like happy accidents as I go through that allow me to kind of discover portions of it, if that makes sense, rather than being like, I want to put purple right at this spot. There needs to be like 27 pixels worth of blue in this area, you know, like I'm not really that precise whenever I'm creating. There's a lot of wiggle room as far as what I may actually get by the end of the piece. So that's kind of one of the ways that I do that. And personally, I like that better. I like finding things in the work rather than always being super rigid about exactly how things need to come together. You could say I like to adventure through a piece. Shocking no one. Okay, that looks kind of cool. That adds a little bit more of that glassy vibe to it, which is really what we want here. We want like this kind of element of almost glass-like around the edge. Let's do even some right here. We may even do some here. I don't know. Kind of looks like ocean in there, and I don't know if I want it to be like that gritty, but we're working with it. Okay, I'm also going to change the background just because I want to see like if we grab just, oh, okay, this like really helps me see it a little bit better. The tan back behind was kind of killing me. Okay. Some of this grit is bothering me. Let's blur it. Filter, blur, motion blur? Ruh-roh. So that kind of like honestly gives that direction, which is kind of cool. And then maybe we can just do a regular Gaussian blur on this. Just make it softer. And let's also, instead of doing lighter color, let's do something bright. Let's blur it again because now we can see a little bit better. I kind of like this, but there definitely needs to be a little bit more saturation in certain places. I don't know, maybe that blur was a little too much. We're gonna leave it like that. The saturation for the rest of this needs to be changed a little bit. But that's starting to look more like stuff inside a crystal. We're starting to get there. Let's grab this blue. Let's grab that bright. We're actually going to do this with a softer brush because I feel like it needs a little, yeah, there we go. That divide is not exactly what I want, but it definitely, ooh, luminosity. Okay, I think I just found, I think I just like saw, I just visualized the end product of this. Oh yeah, okay. I do like that. I do like this because it does look like there's something in there, and I think that the only thing that it needs really is if we hit it with some white shine. Oh, okay. And then if I go back, actually, if I make another layer and I grab like, let me grab like a texture brush. close here and kind of do some of this, you know? Get some of those lines in there. Uh-oh. Spaghetti-o. Okay, okay. I think that this is definitely the move. Okay. I feel like I found it. Sometimes that's how it goes, you know? Like you start to like really not, I wouldn't say that I struggled with it, but like I was looking for it, you know? I was adventuring through the process and kind of like figuring out like, okay, what's going to become of this? Like this concept, how is this going to eventually pan out? And sometimes that it can be tedious. And I think I mentioned this before on one of our other streams, like trusting the process. That's kind of what that is, you know, where it's like, okay, I know how I usually come to the point where I'm like, okay, I like this. I know how I usually find the confidence to finish a piece and to kind of express myself creatively. I don't always like the process of getting there. Like I know the steps that I take, you know, to do it, but it's kind of like you're working through the ugly phase, really. And I think that that's what a lot of that was. But I kind of keep on and keep going, and I'm like, I know that eventually I do actually come to a point where everything starts to look good and regular. And if you can stick with it through that portion of your process where you're not feeling very confident with kind of what you put down on the canvas, I think that a lot of the time I do eventually get exactly where I'm trying to go. Let me make sure that's like full white. So that really shines. And we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to zoom in so I can make sure I get this. For those of you who do use Photoshop, what I'm doing here is I am tapping once and then holding shift and tapping another place, and it kind of drags a line for me. And I'm doing it with kind of a textured brush, so it's not giving me like one straight line. I could do a straight line if I wanted to, and have it be like totally opaque and like very obviously a line, but I kind of like this kind of line fade. I kind of like that vibe more than like a perfect straight line that like is solid all the way through. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's cool. That's super cool. That looks like a crystal. Wow. Where did that come from? Crazy, man. Let's go ahead and make this like mostly white. Grab our soft brush. And do our little lines. And they also go in different directions. then like not all of the lines are like, you know, for each face, the directions are going the same on each, on that one face as each other. But there are variations, like as you change to a new one, it's different. I don't know if I want those to go that direction though. But there are, you know, so I'm doing them in different directions, and it is actually pretty accurate for how this would actually look. We'll just do it like that. That looks good. That's starting to get there for sure. We'll do one more here before we start to add a little bit more to like the main details of this. So we'll grab our soft round. Let's do this one. No, we do want that. Something a little more subtle. Yeah. I don't know if I want to do these like diagonal like this, but it could be cool. Good enough for now. Okay, let's go ahead and kind of put all of these together. Oh, I think that was our sketch layer, wasn't it? No, it was not. It was an empty layer. Okay. Pretty cool. I think that I'll come back another time and like add a little bit more intrigue to the center of that, but that looks like a pretty cool crystal for the moment. Let's go ahead and convert this to a smart object so it's like its own thing, its own layer that I can access later. And let's turn that off, and let's turn this back on. And let's transform this. We'll put that there. And then let's kind of do a concept around this for our little idea that we had going here. Oh, I guess actually I did want to put like some of those highlights on the edges, but I feel like I've spent a lot of time on this. I don't really want to do too much more. So let's grab like, well, like a bronze-ish color, which would honestly be pretty dark at first, because the highlight of bronze and brass is like pretty recognizable, but we want to do something that is like the darkest value first to kind of put some of this interesting business wrapped around this crystal. Let's also, I wonder if we ought to bring our sketch above here just so we can really peek at it. Yeah. And we're gonna put like this kind of sconce thing around it. And then we can do like some concepts of like little broken pieces of it hanging off the edge, like towards the bottom, to kind of give it this hovering vibe. Let me go ahead and clear some of this crazy sketchiness away, kind of clean it up. And let's kind of cut that away, like so. Okay, yeah. And let's lock that transparency. And this is not going to be like perfect. We're going to kind of experiment here. But we are going to kind of bring a little bit of brassy metal. I swear it'll look like metal. I'm gonna pull up my reference. When it comes to like making something look like it's metal, I feel like you really have to take into consideration the fact that, like, even though something looks like it is golden when you're painting it, or when you look at the final product, that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, the thing itself is gold. There's actually a lot of random colors sort of mixed into a goldish sort of object or item, and I think that it is often overlooked how many shades and hues and tones are actually there. And you don't really notice it until you see, I think, a good example of that. And I don't think that this is going to be like the perfect example here, because I'm not going to polish this 100% during today's stream. But you can see that, like, as I start to add some more shades and tones in here, it'll actually start to look a little bit more like gold, rather than if I had just been like, all right, here, you know, let's color the whole thing like a earthy yellow. You know, that's not really what gold actually is. We also, in order to make it like super realistic, we would need for it to have a little bit of the shine of like the crystal from around it, like kind of bouncing off as well. So that's something to keep in mind for the future. And I kind of want this to look like, not perfect, at the risk of like looking like a lot of other fantasy type items. I kind of want it to be, I don't know, more earthy, if that makes sense. Like if we can make it look a little more organic. I think that would be kind of interesting. Almost like, have you guys seen like those pieces of jewelry that are like metal soldered together around stones? Something like that, you know? Almost like it's like a little bit molten, like give it that vibe. Kind of go with these natural brush strokes that I made and see if we can't come up with something a little intriguing with that. Okay, and then let's kind of add a little bit of blending mode to this. I'm going to grab this like orangey. I like that. I think we need some shadow on the crystal itself. Let's add like a little bit of texture to it, to the shadow, just to kind of give this the vibe that something is casting a shadow on it. Does that make sense? Like these pieces are actually like kind of wrapped around it. That's starting to look kind of cool. Okay, I like that. That kind of allows me to visualize this a little bit better. And then I kind of want to add a little bit more intrigue to like the metalwork itself, but I think that maybe I should not solidify it too much. I kind of just want to, let's focus for now on like making this look really like gold, bronzy gold. A little tiny bit of light underneath. And like I said, it kind of has like that molten vibe, that molten feel to it. Like it's like very, almost like melty. Let's add a little bit right there and start to give some form to this. Let's grab this brownish, like orangish color. And I want it to catch light in certain places as it like wraps around here. We could also go the ornate route. I just don't know, like I kind of want to like put some ideas out there that aren't like the standard, like this is got like an engraving on it, and that might end up being like the choice we really should make for this, but I think that we can kind of experiment with something a little different too. But I suppose that like if we really want to give it that vibe, maybe we should also have like other stones embedded in it, you know? That could be cool too. I feel like that would be neat. That does kind of look like gold wrapped around there, but I think that something else we should do is add a little bit of texture to it, and we need to add a little bit of darkness as well, because it's very, very bright. It's very, very saturated. I kind of want to grab like this. And let's play with that. I feel like I want to add a little more. Let's grab this. I kind of like that. Like this weird green kind of coming in here. Which is not actually green, it's kind of more like a brownish orange, but just something that's not another variation of some of the browns that we're already using. And then maybe if I can give it this vibe, like let's kind of sketch. So that kind of goes around there, but like it doesn't have to have only like these two rungs that are like wrapping around it. Like I feel like it should have like it could swoop down as well and like kind of give almost like this interesting liquid vibe. So it's like encrusting the crystal itself. I think that would like kind of do more to suggest this molten vibe that I want to come across, which would be interesting. Okay. Starting to come through. Grab some of that dark. And we could even do it on the actual, so like not only is there, you know, little pieces sort of coming down from the major formations here, but there's pieces coming down and attaching to the same part. Almost like vines, but it's metal. Which I kind of like that. I kind of dig that vibe. Okay. And it's like, this is concept-y, you know, like it suggests sort of what I'm looking for. It needs to be cleared, like cleaned up, and it needs to be like more heavily polished to really give the vibe. But I think that after just a little bit of sketching around and kind of figuring it out, it could really be something solid, you know? Give this like little piece that's kind of slipping down there around. We could even, like I said before, we could even have like other pieces of stone that are like gripping into it, or we could just have like those pieces earlier that I had sketched where there's just like, you know, more little pieces of the crystal itself that are kind of cobbled, piled in like the air floating here. Could be interesting. I don't know. Maybe it's like a small geode that looks like it was, you know, part of the formation. I feel like that could be a little more dynamic looking there. So you kind of get this vibe like it's sort of cracked off from here, you know, and it's hovering. And there could be some kind of apparatus below that really, like more of the gold apparatus that really like hits home that this is all kind of sort of contained. Maybe there's like a little end cap here. So it like kind of sits in the sconce, and then like these pieces maybe are like rotating around, and this is hovering up and down, you know, and these little guys are going this way and that. I feel like that could be cool. And there's a lot that I would need to do to like kind of convey that and get that depth in there, but I can start to sort of visualize it, really. If we use our imaginations, I think that that could kind of start to come to fruition. So that's pretty cool. I feel like I really like this. I actually didn't realize how long it took me to do that. That was like an hour and a half. So I might come to a stop for the day, just kind of on this like crystal concept. But let's lay it out and kind of look at what we put together. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of go back and see like, hey, do we like this kind of interesting vibe of this thing that I've put together? Do we think it looks interesting? Is this something that we can sort of implement? Let's turn the, yeah. and just see if this can become something. Because I'd like to have a little bit more intrigue with the page about all of the, like I said, the crystal tech. And so this needs to, I want to be able to show it, you know, and maybe, you know, with all of these different little pieces spinning around and stuff, maybe I could do, honestly, like kind of a blueprint. I don't know, like maybe I could actually show, like, this is how these things move. This is how they work. This is where they come from. We could have like the, actually have like an example of like the crystal formation before it's used, you know, like what does it look like in its rawest form. We could even talk about, like, kind of show what it looks like when somebody is like mining them. I don't know. We could even do like some props to show, like, maybe there's a special tool that is used to kind of harvest them, or the magical method used to kind of pull them out of the rock. I don't know. We could do a lot of cool stuff for that page. So I'm kind of digging it. I'm kind of digging it. I think that it needs a little bit of work because everything is looking really saturated and it's looking like it needs a little bit more love. But I think this is one of those things where, like, I've kind of created this cool thing and now I might need to step away from it and like come back tomorrow and like peek and be like, okay, what can this really truly become? But that was fun. Let me group all of those, all the crystal stuff together, so that it's all on its own thing. And then, did I hide all of that other stuff? I sure did. Because we also have like the Nail fruit and like some of these other little sketches and things. The stamps are pretty much done. I don't think I'm going to change the stamps at all. The stamps were well liked, and I think I'll probably keep it like that. I kind of want to bring our ticket up to like the same detail, however, and get some more of our other stuff like locked in a little bit better. But we are starting to kind of put together a collection of pretty great illustrations to add to this for a little extra love and awesomeness. So I think that we'll do a stopping point at like an hour 35. And I had a great time. I hope that you folks who are chilling at home and checking this out, either live or watching the replay, are enjoying it. Thank you for hanging out with me while I create. And I will be back on Saturday, so once a week now, to kind of put some more stuff together for you folks and go over some new information that we get as it comes. And yeah, I hope to see you guys there. Thank you very much, and I will see you soon. Adios, everybody.